Good morning. It's Sunday morning, 6:15 a.m. I'm on my way to the start line of the 2020 Clevedon Triathlon. It's quite an auspicious start list of one, and today should have been the Bristol Triathlon, which is once again what these vlogs were supposed to be about. Started nearly 2 years ago. Next week will be 2 years of videos, and yeah, it's not really quite panning out this whole Bristol Triathlon thing. It was actually supposed to run this year, but for obvious reasons it's been cancelled. So I thought being that I live literally a minute or two's walk from the lake, and we can now travel to exercise. I suppose a 2-minute walk really isn't travelling to exercise, to be fair. I'd come and race. I'd do the sprint distance on my own. So I haven't swum for nearly 2 months, so that's going to be appalling. And I don't know how cold the lake is, but I've heard it's about 12 or 13 degrees. I've seen a few people have been swimming in it over the last couple of days. It shouldn't be too good, shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to do 2 laps of the lake, which is around about 800 metres. I've got T1 and 2 set up at home, 20k on the bike and 5k on the run, and I'm sort of looking forward to it. We'll see how we get on. I'll see you at the finish line. So that was an excellent idea. I really enjoyed that yesterday. I'm still a little bit sore from the run and the bike possibly. I'm just going to give a quick overview of how I got on yesterday, and then talk about what I learned from being able to actually go out and put the 3 disciplines together, which is something that I haven't been able to do for quite a while, and I'm unsure whether I'm going to be able to do this season at all. But I did learn quite a lot yesterday about where my training's at and where I'm at. But first of all, give you a bit of a rundown of how I got on with each discipline. So the swim was about 780 metres. It took me, got to look it up here, 13:49, which is about 1:47 per 100, which is really slow. I had to go back through some data. The very last swim I did at Masters, I was swimming at threshold around 1:39, so it's a good kind of 6 or 7 seconds off pace really for 800. I think I've gone under 12 minutes for 800, I can't remember. So yeah, pretty slow, but very enjoyable nonetheless. I did notice a couple of bits and pieces, which I'll go into in a bit. The bike was a bit of a disaster, 20k, average around 33.3 kilometers an hour. I've ridden that faster on a road bike, to be honest with you. I think I averaged around about 220 watts. My FTP is around 255. I can normally do that course when I'm in a time trial around about 290 watts. So I was having a real rough day. I just wasn't feeling it on the bike at all. I can't say I even really enjoyed it. Anyway, I'll go into kind of what I've taken from that, apart from some sore shoulders from being in TT position. And then the run was pretty good. I ran the 5k in 24:11, which is actually the fastest I've run 5k this year. It was nearer kind of 25 minutes, but to run 24:11 I'm really chuffed with, and that's averaging 450 per kilometre, and obviously gives me a really good benchmark to be working on from. So in kind of order of chaos really, the run was best, the swim was second best, and the bike was was least best. But overall, if you think of triathlon as being one thing, it was a great deal of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So let's have a quick look at what I'm going to take from each of those disciplines. So one by one, looking at the swim, well, I've got the lake down the road and we're allowed to travel now to swimming, although to be honest with you, I don't think a couple of minutes walk is really classed as travel anyway, but we are kind of allowed to go swimming now, and I'm going to be doing some early morning swims, at least 2 a week, and I'm going to focus on doing some endurance, so lots of big laps in the lake, and then do some shorter interval sessions. I kind of like we were doing at Masters, really. There's a pontoon I can go out and back around, and I'm going to start timing those rather than just getting in there and plodding around like I normally do when I swim in the lake. I'm actually going to have to train in there. I think that's the first thing I've learned, is that I'm actually going to have to do some training in there until the pool's open. Trying to get that speed back up, trying to build that threshold back up again, and try and build the endurance, much as I have done with the run. That's the most important thing. The other thing I learned about doing the swim was it was absolutely glorious. I don't know if you could see from the footage, but there was this amazing mottled sky, and as I was turning on the last leg of the swim back to the start buoy each time, I could see the sun shining across the water and the ripples glancing off there, and it was, I've got to be honest, it was glorious. To be back in the water and swimming as a hard effort again, who cares if it's 1:47? I had an absolute blast, and I've missed swimming, and I've kind of lied to myself that I haven't missed swimming, but I really have, and I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've got this on my doorstep. I know so many other triathletes, elites and amateurs and age groupers, they don't have this right on their doorstep like I do, and for free, so I'm going to take full advantage of that. Now, the bike, that's an interesting one. Been doing lots of turbo work. I'm feeling quite strong on the bike, generally speaking, and I think most of it is really a technical how to ride thing. I've always been absolutely fine on out and back TT courses. I've managed to average over 40 kilometres an hour on the R10-17 in Wales, which is a straight dual carriageway out and back. No problem at all. When it's constant power, I'm absolutely fine. Now, our local TT course, which is what I based my 20 kilometre time trial off of, is what we regard as a sporting course. Lots of corners, motorway bridges, roundabouts, those kind of things. I do struggle with understanding how to really, not pace it, but how to kind of just power that. It's something I'm going to talk to Chris Newman about, see if I can get some tips on maybe setting up a course where I can go round in some loops, trying to make sure that I can kind of keep some constant power in there. It's not all about turbo training, that's the thing that I've kind of got from this, is that I need to go out at least once a week on my TT bike. Yes, the long rides are really good on the road bike, that's fine, good for your aerobic fitness and all the rest of it, but actually if you're trying to do something specialised, then you've got to do something specialised, and I'm going to be getting out and doing some pretty kind of fixed efforts on the TT bike at least once a week. And then onto the run. What have I learnt about the run? Well, what I've learnt about the run is that the training that I've been doing, this really kind of specific training that I've been doing, is working. I'm definitely getting faster. I'm losing a little bit of weight, maybe not so much over the last week as I did in the previous week, but it is still coming off. That's obviously going to be having an impact on how much weight I'm carrying around when I'm actually running. But also the actual training that I'm doing is working. That physically I'm getting fitter, I'm getting faster, I'm feeling stronger. When I did the 5k effort last week for our virtual club race, I think it was last week anyway, or the week before, I felt like I could run negative splits. I tried to run off the bike the same way. I ran the first 2 kilometres, I think at 4:52. Then I put the foot down a little bit and tried to run at 4:47, which felt like a struggle. And then the 4th kilometre, I was back to 4:52, and then back to 4:47 for the 5th kilometre, which, you know, isn't a massive variation, 5 seconds per kilometre. But I didn't have that kind of kick and that strength to kind of to really push on. Now, I'm not sure, of course, whether that's because it was part of a triathlon. And that's always the case with a triathlon, is that fatigue kicks in a lot earlier on a 5k run than it does when you're doing a standalone 5k run. So really, I'm not entirely sure what I can do in terms of that from a training. Otherwise, maybe working on a bit more strength work on the hills, which I haven't been doing because I've been focusing really on the endurance and the interval stuff. I think I'm going to carry on doing that until I've done another 5k standalone benchmark in a couple of weeks' time and see how that goes. But all in all, it's proving that the run training is definitely heading all in the right direction, which is very exciting and, of course, really reassuring. Gotta love a little bit of Piet Modran, the influence behind the look design. When I got into cycling in the 80s, while Stephen Roche was my absolute hero, the look cycling team, the La Vie Claire kit that you can see here, was a massive influence on me, and to this day I still absolutely adore it. I see this pattern absolutely everywhere, from academic books to stained glass windows to shop signs, and I even saw it once on like a cheap dustpan and brush set. Anyway, I didn't buy it because I don't ever do any tidying up. So I just wanted to just say to you guys that if you're into kind of triathlon stuff, or particularly cycling, I tend to make a lot of videos about cycling because I think it's such a visually and very aesthetic sport to kind of film. But if you're into that stuff and you haven't subscribed already and you kind of like to follow these journeys, sometimes my videos will be about training, sometimes they'll be about my racing, sometimes there'll be technical things to do with psychology or to do with hacks and tricks and stuff to do with cycling, swimming or running, or sometimes it might be a little project that I'm working on, which this is a little clue towards for next week. Actually, I've got a little project that I'm working on right now for my 2-year video. 104 videos will take me into every video, a video every week for 2 years, and I'll be posting that next week, obviously on Monday. If you don't want to miss that, click the notifications bell and subscribe to the channel. If you've liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. I've got a lot of new subscribers over the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to say a big thanks to you for subscribing. Be really interested to know if you guys have got any ideas for these videos, or if there's anything particular you'd like me to kind of talk about or discuss, or if there's anything that sticks out that would be a good thing to kind of talk about in these videos. It'd be great. But otherwise, yeah, just give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe notifications bell down below, and I promise to never wear this hideous 1980s jacket ever again, even though it means the world to me. I really enjoy about triathlon and racing is the getting ready bit. In various walks of my life, for example, when I was a really busy touring musician, I used to love the whole process of making a list of all the gear that I was going to have to take with me and packing all that stuff up and labeling it and trying to think through all the possible scenarios I was going to need. And it's one of the things I really enjoy about triathlon. Is kind of getting my kit ready, running through all the stuff, making sure all the bits are there, because it's so critical, isn't it, to making sure that we've got what we need done. I'm going to make a video in the next couple of weeks about kind of going through a checklist of bits and pieces and maybe some tips and tricks for helping out with that kind of stuff. Having done races since the mid-90s, I kind of have got a bit of a handle on how to get those things ready. One little tip I do is that I make sure I get the bike ready the day before, because obviously that often takes the longest. If there is a problem with your bike, something to do with the indexing, or you've got a chain problem, it gives you that extra bit of time to kind of work on that. I tend to work backwards really on the items that take the most time or the most involved, which usually is the bike and then the swim and then the run. The run stuff is pretty simple, making sure that all the glasses are kind of cleaned and that your elastic laces are set up, and talcum powder and all that kind of stuff to make sure the run goes okay. Whereas the swim stuff, there's obviously a few more items with your anti-fog stuff for your goggles, your hat, all that kind of gear. And then obviously the bike, there's tons of stuff with your helmet and making sure all the kit is working, ready to be raced. But I do very much enjoy that part of the process. One of the best things about kind of using a wax chain I found with my bike is that I don't have to deal with kind of lubing the chain up and all that kind of stuff, but just making sure tyre pressures are correct, making sure brake blocks, especially with disc wheels and deep section wheels and stuff like that, are all kind of aligned, and that the brake cabling and everything is all set up and tightened up, that your puncture kit's all kind of stowed properly, because that's the last thing you want to happen, isn't it, on a race, is to get something about punctures, that they always happen at the furthest point away from your house, and cleats are pretty uncomfortable to walk in. But yeah, I really do enjoy that kind of process, and I think it's something worth talking about. I think some people get particularly stressed out about doing all of that, whereas actually I think if you work through it in a methodical and organised manner, it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. Obviously, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So even in this time when we can't actually do any races, it's probably worth doing a few transition session exercises, and also build that into your brick sessions so that you actually kind of going through that race process. It's pretty much why I did this race, not just because Bristol was supposed to happen this weekend and didn't, and because we don't know if there are going to be any races, but also because I enjoy the kind of process and the system of it all. And who knows, Exmouth might still happen in September, I think it is, and I need to kind of be ready for that. It's only a few months away. In fact, it's quite a long way away, isn't it? We're in May still, June, July, August. That's at least 3 and a bit months away. But there's no harm in getting ready for that stuff by practicing these things well in advance. And I'd highly urge you kind of do that, whether you're a time trialist or whether you're a triathlete or otherwise. Just go through that race prep and kind of go out and do a proper hardcore session with the clock running. Morning, it's time to warm up. I'm going to do a 1 mile effort today for the club virtual race. 1 mile effort. God, they really hurt. I sort of hate them. So anyway, see how I get on. I should apparently be able to run at 7:31 for the mile according to the 5k time that I did. That's what I'm basing the club race off of. So it's 4:41 per k, which I think should be fine actually, but let's see how far I can go with this. Let's do this. Warm up, 1 mile effort. So that's that done. One mile effort. Did it in 7:06, which I think works out to be 4:25 per kilometre, which will do for now. And then I finished it off with 10 1-minute efforts with 2 minutes recovery. That was a good run this morning. Enjoyed that. Weather's amazing. Traffic's definitely getting busier though. Definitely getting busier out here. And so it's been a pretty action-packed kind of racy week. I haven't done much in the way of kind of long, slow stuff this week. I did a long, slow bike on Monday. Haven't done my long run this week, but I think I might get into the trails and do a super long run up in the woods this week with my backpack on like I used to years ago. And just get back into the training a little bit more without any kind of races on the horizon. But I've enjoyed doing the virtual 1 mile race and my own Clevedon Triathlon this week. I've had a bit of a bump on the road with the kind of food intake this week. It started off good. I stuck to the 16:8 fasting throughout, but for many reasons, it's been a bit of a stressful, horrible week in certain ways, and I've struggled a bit. And I've done my usual kind of resorting to kind of not eating particularly well and not drinking particularly well. But ultimately, that's something I need to try and take care of a little bit more. But something's got to give somewhere. Fortunately, the training stuck to being fairly solid. I've got this cool little thing for next week. Hopefully, I've shot some of it already. Hopefully, it'll all the bits will have arrived for me to finish this little project for my 2-year anniversary, my 104th video. And yeah, my focus really in terms of training is to carry on with the training and make sure that I keep my kind of food a little bit more in control, and I have done this week. I hope you guys have a really great week. Thanks for sticking out all these years, those of you that have watched all of these videos. I do get messages from you guys every week. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope that you're managing to cope with the lockdown, or even being able to take advantage of the slight easing in the lockdown that we've had over the last week or so. And I will see you next week for the beginning of the 3rd year of triathlon videos. Have a great week.